press conference, it's running always on time. All of the speeches, the keynote, no matter how many people there are, no matter what, whatever happens, we are always on time, so which is good. All right, so you are at the workshop where we will be discussing some of the insights that we are bringing from our own practice with blockchain, some of the projects that we did. We're going to be talking about some of the best practices that we have, share some of the processes, and also review some of the available platforms for blockchain that are somehow suitable, hopefully, for enterprise, at least a little bit. Also, in the end of the workshop, we will share a document with you that basically outlines all of the major blockchain platforms. We made it by ourselves, and so we basically lined out all of the details that you have to know about these platforms to assess the platform, whether it's a good fit or not a good fit for a particular project. Okay? So that's something you're gonna get. Hi guys. We're a bit informal sitting on the stairs here, which is pretty good. Another thing that I wanted to mention is we are not considered, and we are by no means are the smartest guys in a room. And so what I like about workshops is that it's a collaborative effort, right? So we are not just giving away some of the information and you're like listening, and that's it. If you have an opinion, if you have a question, if you have something to add to what we are saying, or maybe correct us, totally no problem. The industry is still young. Nobody knows everything. Everybody has their own experiences with blockchain, and it's good when all of us contribute. Okay? As Chris Ferris told us this morning, it's all about consortiums, right? When people are coming together and solving problems, and not just a couple of businesses trying to run their own direction. Okay? So let's see a little bit about us. So my name is Nick Kurat, and who were there for the speech this morning that I gave? Oh, okay, good. So I won't kind of tell you the same thing, but yeah, I've been helping quite a few companies apply enabling technologies, and those would be both service companies and product companies. And I'm currently running a blockchain lab within Intellectsoft, and within Intellectsoft we're helping organizations, companies, SMBs, and enterprises to approach blockchain in a smart and intelligent way. Because we've seen that there's a lot of speculation about blockchain, there's a lack of good constructive talk about blockchain. So everybody is, that's probably because of the ICOs going, right? So ICOs are not interested in talking bad things about blockchain because their token price will drop. And so all of these blockchain conferences you go to, all of these ICOs are like, yo, it's
next big thing.
Next big thing, exactly. It's like, God-given technology never seen before, And in fact, it's not. So it actually emerged from one of the technologies that already existed. So that's cool. Tim.
Yep. Hey guys, I wasn't on the stage today, but I was the one on the background that prepared the presentation Nick shared with us. Yeah, so basically I know Nick from very young age, and we've went through a different companies, and we had two companies founded by ourselves. So we have a strong product experience, and I was a CTO of the products. And basically, now we merged one of our product with Intellectsoft, and now we're running Intellectsoft Blockchain Lab. Yeah.
Right, so a little bit about Blockchain Lab, again, aside from the things that you already heard. So having startup experience that Tim and I are bringing into the company, and then having the company of 350 more people that have existed and have done business with SMBs and enterprises for over 10 years, all of that blend perfectly matches what blockchain is doing right now, because blockchain really misses the user experience side of things, right? So the technology in its early days are there, right? So the technology side of things is good, but the user experience is not as good. And so we're kind of bringing some of the startup product experience and technology experience together in this lab. And of course, we're helping to find experienced teams to work with enterprises and to work with SMBs to bring about their DLT projects. And the first thing we do is we sit down and figure out whether DLT at all is a good approach or not. So we're not in the business of selling blockchain or some other non-chain technologies, no matter what, right? We are well experienced in centralized systems and in decentralized systems, and so your customers are coming to us, telling their problem, and we're saying, okay, this is best to be solved with centralized system, and that's the stack, and or not, or that's a perfect case for blockchain, and then we're kind of advising them on that. All right, so a little bit about the presentation we're going to have. So we're going to talk a bit more. We'll expand a bit more on the areas of improvement. This is a very interesting part of our conversation because I believe, and a team for that matter as well, that blockchains are not yet there when it comes to enterprise implementations. Now, that doesn't mean that enterprises should just sit and wait 2 more years and just sit and wait and do nothing and come back and then do something about it in 2 years or more. It means that we have to align our expectations and align our time and what we are doing, our priorities, so that we're using our time more efficiently, right? So we're not running for something impossible, but we're kind of taking one little baby step at a time. So we're gonna talk about the areas of improvement, something that we believe blockchain should add and where it should improve before it can hit the enterprise market. Then we're gonna talk about the oh, sorry, it's duplicate. 2 first points. Anyways, so then we're going to talk about blockchain types. We're going to talk about private, public, and consortium blockchains. What are the differences between them? What pros and cons each one of those types is bringing. Then we're going to talk about project analysis workshop. That's the process that we have internally within Blockchain Lab, and that's how we approach pretty much every blockchain project that is coming in. If we're taking in the project, chances are people are somehow uneducated on the blockchain topic, right? Some are more educated, some are less educated, but we have to kind of bring that to the 0 level, and then from there, make all necessary researches, arrange the teams from different angles so that we are making a product that is checked by business analysts, that is checked by product guys, that are checked from the technology standpoint, etc. So we're going to give you that process that we're using. Then we will give you some of the tips how we are deciding on a blockchain platform. And again, as we spoke with some of the architecture guys, there is, to be honest, not too wide variety to choose from when it comes to choosing the platform, especially for enterprise. And again, Chris Ferris touched on that a little bit. So we're going to talk on that, and then we will compare. We will give you kind of the framework that we're using when we're comparing the platforms available right now. And as I said, we will share a document with you that we compiled. It's a pretty comprehensive table where we have all of the different like parameters for the blockchains that we're looking at. And then you're going to look through like 10, or how many do we have there?
A lot.
Yeah, it's probably more than 10 different blockchains, and you'll see all of the parameters, and you'll have it handy. And then we'll go right into the Q&A, but then if you feel like you have a question or you have an addition to what we're saying, just raise your hand and we'll talk. All right?
So it's 19.
19 blockchains. Yeah. Sweet. That's good. That's good. All right, let's get going. So the areas of improvement. I already shared this slide on a talk. So we briefly touched on the point. So I literally, when I started talking about this, the guy who shows how many minutes I have left, he was like 5 minutes, and I wasn't even on the first one. So that's why I rushed. We can talk a little bit more. Yes, I will share the presentation. Again, like I will show the LinkedIn address, but it's Nick Kurat. It's N-I-C-K-K-U-R-A-T. You can add me in LinkedIn, and what I will do, I will upload the presentation there along with the links to the Outliner Ventures slide that I showed, and then the blog post of Matteo as well. So yeah, if you add me in LinkedIn, then you'll have all of that. Okay? All right. Let's get going. So scalability, transaction speed, it's a famous one, as I said. Everybody's fighting over it, and I would say it's the most popular thing to fix in blockchains nowadays, right? People recognize that the transaction per second is by far not there where it should be. When gaming companies are coming along, they're just laughing. They're just laughing on TPS of Ethereum and Bitcoin. They're like, guys, you know, this is a joke, because they require like sometimes like up to hundreds of thousands of transactions per second in gaming, and the latency should be super fast, because all of the idea behind real-time gaming dissolves, right? If it's not there, and so TPS is a big one, and of course a lot of companies are progressing on that one as well. But still, we have to kind of point this out as one of the things we have to check before going with this technology into the enterprise.
Yeah, and I would say that this one is the most covered thing that it's been fixed right now among the rest of things. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, this one is getting a lot of attention. So then complex querying and data structures, as we know, the ledger itself is a pretty simple database, right? So again, you know, being
pretty strange one.
pretty strange one, yeah. So running queries on it is a hassle, right? So that's why we know that Hyperledger Fabric, right? So they're working on integration of Postgres into the support of PostgreSQL into Hyperledger Fabric, which we definitely kind of, you know, appreciate. So, and we're looking forward to it. So we'll see what happens. From what I know, this is not the only project where people are trying to integrate database support into blockchains. So this is going to happen. But like, blockchain is currently capable of like very simple queries that are showing, I don't know, like your account balance or something. When it comes to, you know, some of the more complex things, it's a hassle. Then the computation limitations is another one. I mean, enterprises in some cases heavily rely on computation capacity of the system, and obviously blockchain is not yet doing a good job. Team scalability is when it comes to actually scaling your team, going after like recruiting people that will be supporting your blockchain. And this, we will touch base on this as well when we will be talking about the total cost of the ownership for the, you know, for the system, because for enterprise it's just an end-to-end project. They have to know all of the expenses and, you know, how much does it cost to actually run this thing? What kind of trade-off is this, right? So we're getting some of the benefits of the blockchain, we're trading off some of the things that are not as good in blockchain, and then we're paying on top, right? So it should make sense for them. And so for teams, it's still a problem, because I mean, you would see, if you search LinkedIn, right, or you go to a recruiting company and you try to find, you know, credible developers for blockchain. We're doing that every day, right? We're recruiting for ourselves and stuff. If you've done that, you know, and if you've interviewed real guys or gals, you know that it's hard to find good people with relevant experience, let alone the people with blockchain experience. Right? So that's why it's a problem. It's the matter of actually creating an ecosystem that brings up the talent, educates the talent, certifies the talent against some existing standards, and you know, lets them work in an enterprise environment. Because enterprises are not going to go out there and just interview everybody and, like, you know, have this custom approach or something. They're just like, okay, are you Oracle certified or Salesforce certified? Yes, I am. All right, you know, the interview goes well, and then, you know, you end up having a job. It's not like that right now. Educational. So when you search for educational content, you may find some on Coursera. I know that Consensus is starting some of the Ethereum courses as well. But it's again, it's not quite there yet, but it should. All right, so let's see what's next now. So maintainability, again, you know, fragmented community. Everybody's making their own blockchain, which we partially appreciate because sometimes, I mean, we're gonna end up having multiple blockchains. You know, that's true. But when it comes to smart people working on something that doesn't make sense, and makes sense only from the standpoint of the token value, maybe, right? It's not a good use case. I heard a guy from Stanford, so I don't remember his title, but the guy, he runs big events in Stanford and in Berkeley on blockchain. And he once emailed me and Alexy, and he said, you know, right now, the best minds in the world are making the technology and algorithms to make people click on ads more, right? And how ridiculous is that, right? So they should be busy doing something more progressive than just making, you know, people click on ads more and get some profits for some of the, you know, ad networks. Same idea applies here. I mean, what if we could have at least like half of the people, or like at least like some people from the blockchain community focusing on a common standard, right? Be it Hyperledger or some other, right? Some common protocol, and then just putting all of the effort in there, we would progress really, really faster compared to what we are having right now. So that's why it's the problem, and we totally appreciate guys like Chris Ferris, who is pushing forward this idea of actually uniting the effort and pushing the technology forward instead of like having your own agenda with your enterprise, right? So that's something that needs to be done as well. System versioning, migrations, and continuous improvement. Again, you know, that's a bit of a geeky stuff. Yeah, you can fill in it.
Yeah, I can feel it here. So basically, what Nick talked before is the most of the products that are built on a blockchain is on a proof of concept stage or a phase, and we as a development company, we already released a couple of products to the production, and we know the best how to maintain, how to migrate, and basically what is the cost of ownership and maintaining this kind of products. And if we will have time, we'll share with you real life applications and what we already developed in the end. But like just a brief overview. So basically the second project we worked on was started at 2015, and it was before Ethereum launch, basically. So there was no Ethereum, and it was NXT based, and so this product is in production right now, and we couldn't just switch it somehow or migrate or something, and it took us two years to migrate to Ethereum afterwards, basically. So and it was a lot of interesting things on the way. Yeah, one of them, if someone is familiar, so in NXT there is something that is triggering NXT to fork. To fork, it's like it just forks from time to time, and then. As we are relying on their event system, at some point of time, it happens that we do have a fork and a 2 point of truth, and then it appears that two events are invoked at that time, and our system reacted like we didn't know how to react on that one, because the both one is truth at that time, but they have a different transaction hashes, and we had to do a lot of things to work around it. Yeah.
Luckily, it was private setup, though. So dynamic configurations is another one that we briefly discussed at the talk as well. So right now, you've heard about all these forks and stuff. So whenever people want to make any changes to the settings of the blockchain that is obviously recorded in the first block, they need to fork the whole blockchain to change just one thing, right? To change, the block size, fork the whole thing. So that's not cool, right? And so there are some of the developments in the area as well where the settings for the blockchain are not being put in the ledger but somewhere else so that you can actually update it. Then smart contracts updates is the big one. You've seen hacks, you've seen mistakes in smart contracts. No matter how you audit your smart contracts and stuff like that, chances are, there's a solidity that is at times vulnerable to attacks and stuff. And then, there's some people that are writing smart contracts that are not perfect, as human beings are not perfect. And so you release some code, and then at some point of time, it basically gives you an error. And the cost of the error can be huge, right? So the market has seen some of the cases where like $10 million were just locked with a smart contract that just went south. So definitely there should be a procedure in which, or the function in which you can update the smart contracts. And right now, for instance, with Ethereum, if it's in public network and it's in the ledger, forget about it. I mean, if it has an error, just forget about it.
For enterprises, it's just not the case. They won't understand that you just cannot update, fix, or improve the code that already working in production.
Right, and everybody makes bugs, even enterprises. Yeah.
Are there like best practices for specifically solidity, for example? How the contract should look like to prevent errors? You have like prompt for halting the project or for disabling a contract if you have errors in it. Are there like best practices of that?
So this is not something that we wanted to cover in this presentation. What we can do, we can get in contact with some of the engineers that are kind of, doing the smart contracts, and then they can answer that question. I bet there are some, right? Because, this project that Tim mentioned, it was ported, or let's say written and migrated from NXT to Ethereum with all of the migration of the keys and, all of that stuff. So there's some people that can answer.
Yeah, so what we definitely have internally, so basically this is a thing of infrastructure, and because of lack of a proper documentation, and you're asking these questions just because you don't have an answer right now. So basically what we have many checklists that we are checking through each time we are writing a new one. Basically, we are going through most errors and hacks, and then best practices we found, and things we've discovered during the audits about the logical issues, logical errors. Yeah, so basically, it's a lot of checklists and a lot of testing.
Let's see if we can share those with you whenever you get that to the engineering team. Okay, next one, interoperability. It's a big one for enterprises, obviously, being able to integrate with legacy systems, with the external data sources that they have in place already. There's no way you can avoid it. So if interoperability with the legacy system is not there, we're not talking. The other thing is cross-chain interoperability. Obviously, we're gonna end up having multiple chains, even with enterprises eventually. So they need to know how to talk to each other, right? And the worst-case scenario is that we're gonna end up with too many blockchains, right, around, and you have to kind of connect them all together. And that's something we were discussing with I don't remember who exactly, but after the talk. So. The idea of having consortiums is so much better than having, everybody, like every 2 banks or 3 banks forming their own kind of group and developing their own blockchain for it. So that's that. All right, so cost of ownership. Okay, so we stopped on that one. So we'll probably accelerate a little bit. So infrastructure, obviously, the more stuff we put into the blockchains on the security side, on the robustness side, on the performance side, it all lays on the shoulders of the infrastructure. Right? Of course, there are some optimization and stuff like that, but in the end, infrastructure needs to meet this criteria, right? So it basically loads up the infrastructure, and so the costs may go up pretty significantly. And so you have to keep track of when you're kind of making an estimate, for the for the total cost for a POC that you're going to run, you have to account for the future loads, maybe based on some of the existing system that you're using, and see what kind of cost implications it's going to have on the infrastructure. The team as well. Team is expensive. It's not only hard to find people that are good at what you need, right? At blockchains, the experience and stuff. They're very expensive to hire. I once received this message through LinkedIn. So it was some company looking for like a VP or CTO position, like something with technology. They were like talking about like 400,000 or 500,000 per year. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. So I'm like, it's a pity I cannot fit in that role. I wish I could though. Anyways, so I wouldn't say that's an average, right? It's definitely not an average. You can check the averages on for different locations on the portals. But that's how crazy it gets. That's how desperate some people are with money. They can just throw money at the problem and try to kind of buy people and make them optimize Facebook ads or something. Anyways, so a new functionality and integration. So the cost includes the new stuff that you want to put on top. And again, if you have a expensive team, then the cost that you would normally bear in the enterprise environment would be less than the one you will be kind of bearing when you're dealing with blockchain. Right, for the sheer reason that you have a team of more expensive experts, so you have to account for that. Support and maintenance, same thing, and higher risks because the technology is, I wouldn't say raw. It's not raw, but it needs to be hardened. So we need to allow some time, no matter how many checks and how many audits and how many whatever procedures you have to make sure the technology is nice and stable and stuff like that. We need to allow some time to go pass by before you can kind of trust, or your CTO can trust that, hey, this technology is stable and it's good for production, right? So any kind of good CTO will probably follow that logic. So that's that. Infrastructure, you can probably cover on that one. I'm doing a lot of talk.
Yeah, so basically it's just a matter of things that are offering you out of the box. So basically the big infrastructure providers support of a different blockchains, because as Nick mentioned, we'll end up with a lot of blockchains, and then even if it fits this particular enterprise, if you cannot integrate it with the cloud you're based on a big scale, it's just no go. And the same for the software. If it's cool technology, but it doesn't have a testing software or deployment software or some kind of automation software or frameworks or best practices, it also will remain just a cool technology, or you just have to do it by yourself, by hand.
You want to cover security as well? Real quick.
Yeah, so basically the security is a tough one, but we just it's the last or almost the last in a list, just because we used to think that blockchain is secured, and it would be not so good to put a security as a first issue. But we know the cases where some blockchain reveals or releases its own hashing algorithm or some kind of a know-hows, and then it turned out that there is a collisions or something. And just because the blockchain manages a a trust itself. It's very risky, and it should be double, triple, and many times checked before the release. Yeah. And then security. So the thing with the blockchain is when we are saying that everything is secured, we're basically saying that everything is under your control. And then when it comes to centralized systems, if we want to streamline some kind of a process or give a UI or UX update, we're just releasing some kind of a two-factor authentication or OAuth or something that just streamlines, that gets your account or gets some kind of a token, and then it helps to automate some kind of steps for you. And then on a blockchain, it's an issue because you just cannot share your keys or your accesses, and then it's even harder to automate anything without not taking the keys from you, not taking the accesses.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's just a security risk. And if we want to automate, it's always balanced between automation and security when it comes to the blockchain.
Okay, real quickly on compliance. There's a bunch of compliances. This is not all of them, obviously, but GDPR. Everybody's well aware of that. You received emails from them, I bet. So GDPR, user privacy protection, HIPAA, medical information protection, PCI DSS, that would be payment cards, information protection, FISMA, that would be government information protection in states. So there are all kinds of compliances that you have to meet. And when it comes to blockchain, if it comes to already established enterprises, they are saying, hey, we are all of this compliant, all right? We did it for you and everything is fine, and enterprises are like, okay, check, right? So one of the checks, it's there. When it comes to blockchain, it's still a work in progress. It's still a work in progress. It's still in its early days when it comes to the compliances. Obviously, I mean, GDPR is covered, right? GDPR is covered, and we know in which way. And again, Chris touched this a little bit with telling about the references that are in the ledger, recorded in the ledger, and they're kind of referencing to the real storage of user data. That's how they handle it. Yeah, but that would be it. I mean, the list can go on, right? So the list can go on of different obstacles that we have before we can have the blockchain ready for the enterprise. Don't be freaking out. I mean, it's all in progress. This is all very big money involved in this. Whoever gets first, whoever kind of solves this problem, he's getting a big chunk of benefit, obviously, and he's making money. So there's a lot of smart people. I wish there were more, but there's a lot of smart people that are working on every single one of these. Yeah, we as a community, as an engineering community, we have to join the process, not necessarily having our own project started and just nobody understands nothing about it, but we do, and so we will, we'll do something that will disrupt the whole industry. That's not happening. We have to join forces. We have to join forces. All of the stuff that is really disruptive was because of the joint forces of a lot of smart people, right? And it's not happening overnight. None of that. Even Bitcoin.
Yeah, and one more thing about the compliances. Even if some blockchain will support all of this at some point, and then after release or after all of the improvements and the compliance is done, any new compliance will be released, then it will be the same problem for them, and then it just returns to the maintainability point where we have to have mechanisms or methods how we can update or migrate or reconfigure this kind of a complex complex systems.
So we're going into the blockchain types. Real quickly, 3 blockchain types. Tim?
Yeah, so this section is basically just to align our knowledge and just to introduce the types of a blockchain we are working with. So basically the first one is a public blockchains. We all know about them. And the main benefits of them is basically the top security, because it's permissionless, and this proof of work consensus is very, very strong. And because of that, you can trust this system. And then the second value is a value transfer. This is something that was introduced by Bitcoin. That you can transfer value through the internet. And the last major benefit is a global scale. And just to mention that this one is just a brief things that we are envisioning as a top value for this chains. Okay, so this was a public blockchain. Then private blockchains, how it works and how it worked after public blockchain was released. So basically, we're just taking public blockchain and then using rolling it out in our private infrastructure, and then using this approach, this blockchain approach for our internal needs. And then so it basically means that some of the benefits from the publicness is dismissed, but there is still a value in this kind of a chains. And basically the first value that we see is internal security, because the data there is immutable, and even if it's just under your control or under control of your organization, it's still immutable and it's still secured from internal attacks or internal changes. Still, there is accountability for a lot of organizations. This is a huge benefit, because every step in history is saved to the blockchain. And then the DOS resistance is also a good one. Yeah, and the last one is basically consortium blockchains, and we're working with this one too. And what it introduced to us is basically a new way of connecting different organizations. And how it was before is it was done through the APIs, and the problem with the APIs is that you have to kind of uncover a part of your infrastructure, uncover a part of your data or data structures, and then it just not worthy enough to do this for connecting to your competitor. And then blockchain with this consortium thing released a new way how you can collaborate, how you can share and stay safe within the same network. Yeah, so the main benefits is universal API and multi-organizational support.
Nice. All right. So that's for the for different types of blockchains. I bet this is something that would be worth going through afterwards as well as you're developing, or downloading the slides from LinkedIn. But yeah, let's jump right into the project analysis workshop. So this is very briefly, this is a process that we're going through with every blockchain project that we're taking on. It's basically some kind of evolved feature analysis workshop that organizations like ours, like companies like ours, would normally do. We used to, so this is kind of the upgraded version for blockchain of the ones that we use for both startups and enterprises, because they would come and they would need some of the consulting kind of a part for the product, right? So like researches of some kind, you know, the competitive landscape check, you know, to see what kind of technologies and what kind of approaches competitors are doing and things like that. So just briefly what we have here. So this is kind of the phases that a normal POC is going through. Obviously we have the project analysis or the project analysis workshop where we have the discovery. So we're looking at okay, what the client has in mind already. Sometimes the client has a lot, right? So they're, you know, very well educated in blockchain. Sometimes they have very few thoughts about what they want to build, but they still want to kind of invest in and explore the technology and stuff like that. So that's why we're kind of discovering what they have already. Then we're performing the functional and tech analysis. So from the standpoint of the features, from the standpoint of the tech stack that they imagined probably, or some of their technical stuff. And then we're making a technical assessment. So what kind of technology limitations are there? What kind of environments this project is going to be running in? And then we're obviously making a project plan and the rest. So this is just briefly, we'll go into details in just a moment. So then we initiate the project. So after the workshop, we basically get all of the deliverables ready. And ideally, after the workshop, the enterprise or any kind of size of the enterprise, they should be in the place where they have all of the information about the first version of the POC they want to develop, what kind of technology stack they want in, what kind of prioritization for the features they want in, what kind of platform they're based in, you know, right, and then some of the economical stuff, especially, you know, for the guys that are using token economy for their kind of, you know, internal purposes or external purposes. You know, we're kind of integrated that in as well. And some of the guys even need some external help with jurisdictions and things like that when it comes to, you know, the companies that are running for ICOs, the legit ones. There are a lot of scam out there, so careful. So yeah, so that's, we initiate the project, we develop it basically, launch it, you know, run acceptance testing, and then launch it into the production and to the moon, as they say. So this is how it looks like from the timeline perspective. It's normally a 3 to 4 week exercise that we obviously are charging for because we're taking some of the best people engaged in this. This is super important to have the best experienced guys. You like to have all of the best practices involved in this. And this is the steps that we're going through. So the first week is the knowledge transfer, like the introduction, whatever a client has on his in his hands, whatever stakeholders he can provide us access to. Whatever it's an internal project, we're talking to the employees. Whatever it's an external project, we're talking to the guys that are on the market. Sometimes we would contact the competitors as well and see, you know, where they're standing. For the second week, it's normally, so, and the first week is an off-site thing, right? So we normally have like calls with a client and things like that, multiple calls during the week. And then for the second week, that's normally an on-site thing. We've learned that it's pretty much impossible, or at least it's a very complex thing to do, to actually have a productive conversation and a work if you're not sitting, you know, around the same table. And all of the technical means help, right? All of the whiteboards and, you know, that you know, have shared access and the video and stuff like that. But it's not the same. I think you'll agree if you ever worked with remote teams. Go ahead.
Yeah, and the thing that on the third week we are committing to a lot of deliverables for the clients, and the numbers varies, but usually there is, like, this is the next slides, yeah, but we need to basically utilize this first and second week on a maximum level, just to be able to produce everything we need to compile a tech stack, to compile a team timeline and all the data flows, just to have enough data for this kind of activity.
Right, and then, yeah.
On the previous slide you mentioned project plans in the beginning,
Yeah, so that would be in the week 3. Yes, so that's one of the deliverables. We're going to share it as well. So I'm going to go.
So this slide is basically just a first. This slide is just a first point of the previous slide. Yeah, so this 3 weeks is just one point on the previous slide.
Right. So all of these exercise this 3 weeks, this is basically that big blue point over there, right? So, and we're kind of detailing this out. So for the second week, like in the end, what it is, it's basically sitting down with the client and having all necessary guys on our side that would cover all of the necessary expertise for the project to succeed. And that normally takes client as a business owner who presumably understand his business really well, and we do not understand that business as well as he does. And so he's bringing, the decision makers on his side. From our side, we're bringing business analysts that, have worked with products. It's basically, I would call them startup guys, but for the enterprise that have like entrepreneurs kind of a deal, right? That understand the product, they understand UX, they understand how that corresponds to the technical side of things. Then we obviously have blockchain guys, blockchain architect, who can actually look at all of these, like fantasies of the business people and just say, hey, dudes, like this is, technologically this is not possible or something.
Yeah, and the second week is a best point when you have to understand the client knowledge about the blockchain and how it works and how he think it works, because when it happens on the third week, and it happened actually, we were in a trouble.
Yeah, like if client is thinking too highly about blockchain, and he's like, we're asking like, hey, how are you gonna? So you have an ERC20 token running on public Ethereum network. How are you gonna kind of migrate that over to the Hyperledger fabric that you're, And the client is like, but that's blockchain, Like you're like, no. There's technical limitations to that. So yeah.
Yeah, and the thing with the utility tokens and the best way how a lot of guys explaining why they need the utility is basically we will pay fees for some kind of operations there, or we'll use it for enabling some kind of features. And then when it comes to project to the project architecture, and we're saying how, so you're already on the public Ethereum network and you want to pay with these tokens, and also you are requesting to have 1,000 transactions per second. How you envision and even to achieve it with having the public token on the Ethereum blockchain.
Right. So that's all specifics. We can talk about it afterwards. But like the general idea is that we have all of the kind of expertise covered around the same table, and we're discussing that. And we're actually forming a definition of an MVP. We're prioritizing the features. We're making all of the different researches. If you need KYC, AML, we go ahead and make a comprehensive research about those. Which one will fit best? If they need some, cash in, cash out options. If they need some token economy. We look at the similar models if they need like a stable token, whatever. We are researching some of the existing use cases of the failed or successful ones for that specific case. So then, obviously, we're looking at the technical side of things. Our technical guys are providing feedback on whether it's feasible or not. Sometimes technical guys will give us some of the ideas as well. It wasn't imaginable by business guys, but he's like, hey, there's a Lightning network, and we can, take advantage of that. So it's a very, very intense process that normally happens either on the client site or on our site in one of the offices that we have. And then the third week is an off-site week where the team is basically wrapping everything up and getting the deliverables ready. And we had the slides for every deliverable and everything, but decided to skip that just because it's like 6 or 7 slides. It will kill a lot of time. We have it? Oh, okay, yeah. Okay, so we actually have it. We have it as a summary. So this is the deliverables that we have. So it's normally like user story map, user flow diagrams, basically, like how customer is actually interacting with the system, who's the persona that is using the system, and all of that like stuff that you're normally using for your products as well.
Yeah, and the required one is the data and control flow diagrams. and this one basically answering a lot of questions about how what components should we use and what the potential security risks will have, how blockchain actually fits in the product.
Yeah. What is master?
Yeah, so it's also important because of the GDPR, and it's not a completed sentence. Yeah, it should say master datasets location. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so master datasets location, I think it explains it. So the feature set is a prioritized list of features that are going to be there, a POC definition, technical approach, basically explaining what kind of platform we're going to use, high-level architecture, data flow diagrams, and stuff like that. Project plan, and that's where, you know, where SOW is getting kind of detailed out. We're basically trying to make this as friendly as possible for the customer, so that the only thing he needs to actually go ahead with the development is just, you know, sign it, right? And so we're getting this SOW ready, and we're getting the timelines. We're showing him the ramp-up period for the team, like actual ramp-up period, with having in mind some of the candidates already. The project managed approach, communication approach, all of that's good stuff. So that's that. You want to fill in on these ones? Or no, it's fine. Yeah. That's a good question. So, do you have a number? I would say like more. What is that? Like more than the half? More than half, yes. So workshop, like when you're running a workshop and you're charging for it, and it's normally like, you know, like $25,000 to $40,000. And so with that kind of money giving up for, you know, for the researchers and to make things kind of ready for the, that's normally the guys that are pretty serious enough, right, about the project. And so that's why they if they see value, and there's definitely value, I mean, sorry for boasting, but like there's definitely value, and then they're like, hey, it's a no-brainer. You know, we loved it. You know, we loved working with you. Your expertise is there, and blah blah blah. So yeah, let's just sign. So I would say like well over half of them.
Yeah, and the other half, in the most cases, is basically uncovering something new to them, something about regulations or constraints, and then they just request some time to fix these issues, and then come back and then proceed with the technology.
Yeah, exactly. So, for instance, yeah, that's one of the kind of fresh cases. So we've done a workshop, a really good one. So, I mean, basically just laid out like the whole model, how the product should function, made all of the researches. But then it turned out there's some licensing in states. In every state, you got to get a license for that activity. And so for them, like taking like 50 licenses in every state, that wasn't kind of a ridiculous thing to do. And that's why they wanted to pivot to some other jurisdictions, like, you know, Asia and stuff like that. So that's why they took their time to kind of, you know, do the all of the legal hassle and everything that is connected on their side to the pivot. So yeah, that's why, you know, some of the, I mean, once we developed this mobile proximity platform, really nice one. I think it was like developed on multi-chain, really nice product, you know, from all of the standpoints. From yeah. So and then we got really nice UX there, you know, super nice experience, nice backend and everything. But it was taken out from the App Store, just because they released some kind of regulation there, some rule.
Too early. Yeah.
Okay, there was no regulation for that, and then they just, you know, taking the app out. So sometimes that happens as well. So it's, yeah, depends. Yeah.
So you mentioned like the data control of knowledge,
Mm-hmm.
like security aspect of it, and I think it's very important, like to bring into an enterprise if I'm bringing in cyber asset base as well. So at what point do I involve my chief security officer, and like what are the things that I advise, or like make sure that my security department is okay with blockchain?
Absolutely.
Anything that is specific to blockchain?
Yeah, so I would really advise to have them in the workshop, right? So in the workshop, we should cover all of the stakeholders from both sides, right? From our side, we're covering, you know, every aspect of the, you know, development side of things. But then from the enterprise side, you have to check that legal is fine, right? Finance is fine, accounting is fine, security is fine. So that's why, you know, having representatives at least go through whatever we are planning for is a must. If you can get them in the workshop, and if I mean, if it's feasible, that's good. If not, then you're running through the workshop, kind of consulting with them in the meanwhile, and then getting them the deliverables, and then just review the deliverables and either approve it or not. Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. You wanna?
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of things. Yeah, so basically, it's heavily depends on the setup, and if it can be totally done with just a blockchain without any interconnections, or it is a lot easier to do. And if it's connecting to to your infrastructure, and then you have to have automation in place, then a lot of things are considered in a security. So basically, it depends on the interconnections.
Yeah, I can actually give you like an example, right? I like talking examples. I'll try to make it as NDA as possible, right? So let's pretend there's a client that is applying for a banking license, right? So it's a emerging bank, and so obviously applying for the banking license will require having core banking services. When you're getting a banking license, the authority that is issuing the banking license, they have their own checklist that you have to kind of check to be able to actually get that license. And all of these checks, well, not all of them, but part of these checks, they're concerning the product that you're going to be delivering. Right, and so let's assume that we already had that experience of actually taking that checklist, bringing into the workshop, and basically having all of these checks checked, shipping that back to the authority, and then having them kind of approve it or having some comments. So when it comes to the enterprise, you have to understand the stakeholders, what this POC is going to touch, right? Is it like a totally autonomous thing, right? Or it's going to be integrated within the existing legacy system, right? And then you are either have more freedom with that or less freedom with that. The more integrated you are within your current system, the less freedom you will have, and the more kind of checks and approvals you will have to get. We are fine with both scenarios, right? We're fine kind of helping you go through that as soon as you understand that the trade-off of the time that you're putting into this really worth the result that you're getting in the end. Okay, is that answering your question, or you can clarify it? Let's talk afterwards. Okay.
Yeah, and I can add something on top of it. So we have a practice when so it's not connected to the workshop, but we do have a practice of requesting a hacking service to ensure that everything is okay on security on each release we have.
And it's a white hat. It's white hat.
Yeah, on each release and for each entry point, applications, APIs, and yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So as for the approach, and it's actually the same approach as every IT project, basically.
Yep.
But I think that what you're asking is that what is typical for blockchain itself. And I think is because we don't know, let's say, yet what is bringing it, put it as soon as possible on the screen working. As soon as possible demo or whatever. Show it instead of going for weeks and weeks on PowerPoint.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah, that's a very good fill-in. Thanks. Definitely. Yeah, if you guys have any additions or like some comments or something like that, throw them in. It's a workshop. We're sitting on this unofficial the stairs, not in chairs. Yes.
Could you repeat the comments?
Oh, I can give the microphone. Yeah. Can you repeat what you said?
Of course. Can you hear me now? Yes? Better? So the thing is, what I saw there was actually more a methodology of an IT project itself. It starts with analyzing, stakeholder analysis, technical, functional. But what we recommend is that, because it's a new technology, is that you show it immediately, as soon as possible. Not first all PowerPoints or Word documents or those kind of things, but show it in those workshops, seeing that actually what is under the hood, but also what is actually the interface. Because for a lot of clients is that blockchain is a magic bullet, a silver bullet. You can fly to the moon, but it's so important that you can see, okay, this is actually what's under the hood. So show it on screen and not only on PowerPoint actually.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you very much. We'll rush it. We'll rush it real quick. Let's see. Deciding the blockchain. You want to go through really quickly, okay?
Yeah. So basically, this is a different stages and different properties we are looking at when choosing a different platform. Yeah, and basically it started with the type of a blockchain, whether we need to have something very custom and then go with the framework, or we can go with the private oriented blockchain like Parity, or it can be or it is public blockchain like Ethereum. Yeah, and then we just looking if we need permission levels, what kind of anonymity level we need to have in place. And this is like a general thing that is showing us the group of blockchains we are looking at. And then basically the three other is more detailed, and the second stage is basically what is important for us to be able to deliver, and it's basically what languages do this blockchain supports, what SDKs do they have, what toolset do they have, the community and the documentation state, whether we can utilize all of that to deliver or not. Yeah, so this is ease of use, and then technical and security properties is basically block time, settlement time required, because some clients are okay if it takes 1 minute for the settlement, and some are not. And then what is the most important? Yeah, settlement time with performance, and then yeah, if it's BFT or not, if finality is immediate or not. Yeah, and the last stage is basically the.
Could you elaborate quantum resistant?
Yeah.
I understand them all, but quantum resistance.
Yeah. So basically, we are looking at if it's something connected to a real value or money or something. We're looking at if the particular blockchain has some kind of a workarounds that can be quantum resistant. So basically using a hash function that is quantum resistant, or an encryption method that is quantum.
Blockchains that integrated quantum computer resistance, right?
Yeah, yeah. So there is some that is claiming that they are quantum resistant. Yeah, yeah. And the last one is basically the business properties. Do they have decentralized exchange? Can it support microtransactions? What is transaction costs? Can we issue custom assets? And is custom or master coin required in this particular case? Yeah.
All right. Okay, and really quickly, last slide, because I think everybody's keen to hear the talk of Kristen from Coinbase. I think she'll be giving a lot of interesting information. So, blockchain platform comparison. So we've got this documents for you. So, I mean, you can take a picture. It's the latest version. We're gonna update it real quick, but it's basically the table that we made for you guys to look at one glance at all of these different blockchains and what they do, what kind of properties they have, the properties that Tim just shared. You know, these are in here. You have this categorization with white like blue and green, basically representing different kind of, the generations of a blockchain, right? So we're going to share that in the LinkedIn as well. So if you want to have a table like this, editable, not editable, but like you can copy stuff from there, so it's not like the picture, it just add us, either of us, on LinkedIn, and we will post that in the timeline, in our timeline in LinkedIn. So yeah, just make sure you find us. Well, just add us on LinkedIn and we'll do it. Okay, so that would be it. I don't think we have any more questions. What you can do, you can just leave or kind of stay after the workshop is done and then talk to us personally. We'll be able to answer your questions, all right? All right, thank you very much, guys. You've been an awesome audience. Have a good rest of the day.